Hi, I'm Baby Robot and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about harmful stims. Stims are repetitive self-regulatory behaviors, and they very often will happen to help us get through or even avoid a meltdown or a shutdown. So they are very important to listen to and to let ourselves do. But what do we do when our stims are unhelpful or harmful? Well, I have a little bit of experience with this, so I'll let you know my own experiences and how I've tried to overcome these. Firstly, the stims that I've had that have been harmful during a meltdown, so they don't happen just on a day-to-day basis, just happen when I'm like being super overloaded. One of them was hitting my head. I haven't done it very often, but it has happened a few times. One time quite like I couldn't stop, and then the way I stopped was just to kind of like press my hands into my sides, and I basically turned myself from a meltdown into a shutdown, and I just kind of like couldn't move. And that was from too much noise. And another thing that I heard that can have a good kind of similar, like fulfill the need that hitting your head fulfills, but without the downside, is being to like cover your ears and just go like that. And you don't need to do it so you don't need to do it so harshly to feel it more, because you like feel it through your ears, and sometimes there's a ringing, like repetitive ringing that you can control, that happens in your ears when you do it. And basically that, I think, is a good kind of, it fulfills the same need. And that's what we really need to think of when we try to replace negative stims, is what need is the stim fulfilling, and then do the same thing but without the harm. Another thing, like if my meltdown is kind of more rageful, then I'll like hit the couch or the bed like really, really hard, just again and again. Another thing that some people do is like compression stims, so they'll press their like body part against the wall and just like press it. So I guess like, how can I show you? Like press all with your leg. So it's like kind of like using your muscle, tiring it out. And I like to do stretches quite often, and I think that kind of relieves a lot of the restlessness that may be in your muscles. Or one time recently I ran up and down the apartment and just got all the like kind of negative energy out of me, and then when I stopped I was like exhausted, more exhausted than I would usually be after like the amount of activity that I did. I think it was just like, after a meltdown you generally are more exhausted. Another negative stim that I've done during meltdown or shutdown has been to spin, and for most people spinning is not negative and it's not harmful, but I'm quite like motion sick very easily. Like even just a simple ride in a car can make me very so but the like effect of spinning, if you're overwhelmed and you just want everything to go away, spinning can be like really good for that. And one time I span for ages and ages and ages, and every time I stopped everything was spinning and I was like so sick. And then so I spun the other way to counteract it. So during the spinning it was great, and then when I stopped it was horrible, and then I eventually stopped and I just sat down and I just felt so sick. And so for me, it maybe in the moment is good, but in the end it's going to be quite horrible and not get me out of the state of distress and overwhelm that I'm trying to kind of counteract with the spinning. So in the end it does the opposite of what it's trying to do. So it is a harmful stim for me. For other kids, and for me when I was younger and I was less motion sick, spinning was really fun, and I would spin ages on the swing or spin around poles. Like I probably did it as much as any other kid, but it was really fun, and it's just like not a good thing for me to do anymore, even though it is fun and nice. So because I haven't done this very often, I only really did it once, like really bad. I haven't like developed any tools for counteracting it and doing something else. I basically do my normal method of shutting down and just relaxing into it instead of fighting it, and so therefore the spinning isn't necessary, and I just let it pass through me. Something that I didn't realize was a stim when I was doing it a lot was hyperventilating, and I basically didn't know I had autism at the time when I was like having panic attacks constantly. I just thought I had anxiety, and I have since realized that at that time I was suffering a lot of meltdowns and shutdowns, but I didn't know what they were, so I would panic and then I would hyperventilate. And I still I don't hyperventilate in nearly the same amount that I used to, but every so often I will do it a little bit, but it will be just like kind of a bit, and then I'll stop, and it will be not so like heavy. But back when I didn't know what it was, I would not be able to stop, and I'd be trying to stop myself, but I couldn't. So basically my method for stopping that getting out of control is to know what is going on, not have reason to panic, because I know what a meltdown is, I know what a shutdown is, and I know that they necessary for me to cope. So I just relax into it and I just let it happen. And so the same with the spinning. Basically it's no longer as much of an issue now that I'm kind of accepted what's going on with me. There are some stims that happen day to day all the time that are more like they're not a way for coping with a meltdown or a shutdown. When you're calm, they're pleasant, or they help you avoid getting into the state of a meltdown or a shutdown, because then you like focus on it and it's nice, and the rest of the world doesn't seem quite so bad at the time. But there was one thing that I've done for a very long time since I was a little kid, which I have finally basically stopped, but I did do it today, so ruining my track record for the video. I did it this morning, is picking my nails. So like doing that, but to the point where it breaks off. And that was just a constant compulsion for me when for so much of my life. And I like the quick of your nail, I picked past that so that the quick got lower and lower. That kind of freaked me out, and I would also be obsessed with cleaning my nails, which I still kind of am, and like fitting them together like puzzle pieces, the different weird shapes that I had made. So I got fake nails put on, the gel ones, and they really helped because I couldn't pick at them, and also I'd spent money on them, so I didn't want to pick at them. And then my nails grew underneath them. When I finally got rid of them, I had grown nice long nails. I didn't want to ruin them, so I filed them and cut them and painted them with hardener, so it would be harder to pick at them. And I have basically kicked the habit and replaced it with caring for my nails, so filing them and painting them with the hardener, and just kind of, instead of fitting together the weird shapes, I fit together the, you know, more perfect shapes. And obviously I can't make them perfect, no one can make them totally perfect, only a machine could. So I'm like kind of obsessed with looking at the little like asymmetries with them and things like that, and I still have this like weird focus on my nails, but it's no longer destroying my nails. So basically I have had success with stopping a really compulsive stim that I had for so long. And now I'm trying to, I'm in the process of stopping another one that I've had not for as long, but still for a long time, because, you know, with being a teenager and getting pimples started then, and also I had eczema since a very young age, so the skin would go all scaly and I want to scratch. I have a habit of picking my skin, and it's not getting better. In some ways it's getting worse, like extending to different areas and wanting, the reason I realized that it was compulsion rather than, oh, I've got bad skin and I need to like attack it, which was my mindset before. The reason I realized was because I found that when I didn't have any anomaly with my skin, I'd be disappointed and I'd go looking for something to pick at. And then I realized I really needed to nip this. And so I've got some tactics that I'm trying, and one of them is to remember that it will make my skin worse. And like when I start, remember, you know, I'm increasing the prospect of infection, opening up the skin. So I need to, you know, stop, and sometimes that helps me stop, and maybe it will take a little while to stop, but I will stop. Lately I have been able to make myself stop by thinking that. Before I couldn't, but I've kind of just been saying it again and again to myself. And another method has been to do something else instead. I have this bracelet which is really nice to stim with. It's magnetic and you can pull the pieces apart, and it takes a little bit of force but not too much. So when my girlfriend pulls my hands away from my skin, tells me not to do it, then I will often pick this up instead. That's quite nice, and you can like make shapes with it as well. And something I talked about with my psychologist was kinetic sand. She suggested that I get that, so I have bought some. And so it's kind of like clean but a bit gooey and textury, so you can like fiddle with it in the same way, look at all the different anomalies and asymmetries and patterns and make shapes with it. I did buy this to try and make, you know, squish like doing icing, because this is for icing, but it didn't work out. So that was a bust. But I can just kind of squish it in my hands and crumble it, make shapes. And I can do that in front of the TV, because that's often a time when my mind might wander to picking at my skin. I bought this. It's like foam. It's supposed to be foam. It's kind of these weird like squishy balls, and they're kind of sticky, and you can break them apart, and they kind of like to stick together. And because they stick to your hand, it's kind of satisfying that it makes that noise. and it's kind of like, yeah, ripping something off your hand. So that's kind of replacing some of the need that the picking was. And another thing that I've got was these cotton gloves. So if I really want to do it and it's like a danger time, like I'm bored, I'm tired, then cotton gloves. Since they're cotton, they're not going to aggravate my eczema because I have eczema on my hands, and then it also stops me from scratching or picking at the eczema on my hands. And you can kind of like go like that, and it satisfies the itch, but not so like scrapingly. And basically, these are, you can get them from a pharmacy, and yeah, obviously they look a bit funny, like you're doing gardening or something, so not something I would wear out, but something I'd wear around the house to stop me from doing that. So yes, those have been the kind of methods that I've been trying, reminding myself that it is harmful while I'm doing it. And I'm going to put up a little sign beside the mirror so that if I look at my face in the mirror and see anomalies, I can see this sign saying that it is harmful and that it will make me more likely to have, you know, funny things on my face and scab, and don't want that. And just focusing on something else. There are other things that I can do that are fun and stimmy. I don't need to use my skin to stim with. So, in short, take away the reason for the stim, make it so the stim is unavailable, or replace the stim with something else that fulfills the same need. I would definitely not suggest trying to forcibly take away any stims that you have. It is something to be done delicately, because you don't want your mind and body to accidentally replace it with something even worse. You want to purposefully and consciously change it to something that you have decided on and that will be less harmful. If a stim is not extremely harmful and you don't have a safe way of replacing the stim, then it is better to keep doing it than to risk the distress or worse stim that could arise from forcibly taking away the stim. We have to remember that stims are our body trying to tell us something, and our body trying to fulfill a need and make us feel better. That's why they're self-regulatory. Stimming freely and without any shame will make you feel better. We just have to make sure that the stims we are doing are not out of our control and something that we don't want to be doing. If your stim doesn't give you joy, either at the time or in the aftermath, and it makes you feel not good or has a bad effect, then I would highly suggest talking to someone who you can trust and getting them to help you to change that stim into something else and fulfill that need in another way. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you found something useful in this. At least it was a way to show you guys how I'm progressing. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, please hit subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye! Crumbling and crumbling and crumbling down. Crumbling and crumbling and crumbling down. At least I can use it for icing. I'll just have to remember to wash it out. Not to be used with kinetic sand.